Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Dental Up Podcast, brought to you by Keating Dental Arts, a full-service, award-winning dental laboratory. Each week, you'll learn tips and techniques from real-world dentists, bringing you in-depth interviews, motivating stories, current events, and sports. Here's your host, Sean Keating.
Hey everyone, Sean here. Welcome to another episode of the Dental Up Podcast. Our guest this week is a graduate from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She completed a general practice residency at the VA hospital in Portland, Oregon. She has extensive postdoctorate training with conscious oral sedation and has completed over 300 hours of CE for dental implants at the Maxi course in oral implantology at New York University. Practicing from Fayetteville, North Carolina, please welcome Dr. Angela Ruff Dds. How's it going, Dr. Ruff?
Hey, doing great. Good day.
Oh, that's so cool. Thank you so much. I know how busy you are. You got a busy practice, and man, you've been sending us work for a while, and I just can't thank you enough for it. And heck, I was just talking to you about it. I can't believe you do all your own model work and pins and everything. Tell me about that. Is that something that you've always done, or?
Yeah, I guess my husband says I'm just a little bit compensate in that arena, so I just would prefer to do that myself. So make sure it's right. It's
always, and it's so good and it's so accurate because model work, I mean, it's the foundation of everything that we do in the lab. And our model guys are, a lot of labs will put the weak people in the model department. They don't really ever succeed as a dental lab. I think it's some of the most important work to be done. It's the foundation of everything. So it's kind of like the pyramids back in the day. If you don't have that foundation set properly and accurately, nothing that goes upon it, atop of it, will have a success rate unless you got really good plastic.
That's true. And you've got a good group of technicians there because, I mean, the margins are always perfect. So, and I've used other labs before, and that couldn't always be said. So.
Well, thank you so much. Again, that's back at you too, that you're giving us crisp margins. I mean, we'll give you good margins if I get them for sure. And you just, you really are knocking it out of the park, quality wise. And just, we can't thank you enough. I wish I could clone Dr. Ruff into about 100 other doctors like you. I mean, it'd be great, but it's
well,
neat.
That's very kind. Thank you.
That's so neat. Well, hey, I always like to start off the podcast talking a little bit about sports. And I know you're in North Carolina, big basketball area in a way, Chapel Hill especially. But tell me a little bit.
Yeah, UNC Tar Heels, right?
Yeah, I can't believe that. My brother's out in Greensboro, so he's a big guy.
Oh,
and yeah. So that's pretty amazing how they have the three colleges. I mean, what do you have? Duke. You have
NC State, and we have Wake too, Wake Forest.
And then Wake Forest right there. Then even that little Greensboro college they did pretty good in football a couple years back. And I think it's I think it's like a D2 though, isn't it, or something, or D3? I'm not sure if it's...
I'm probably better with hockey than basketball because my husband's Canadian, so...
Oh, you're kidding. I love hockey,
We see a lot
too.
of hockey, yeah.
We have the Ducks here in Anaheim, and I have a dentist that is the dentist of the Ducks, and we see a lot of Duck games, and we have a lot of the Ducks come in. Dr. Rick Morimoto, man, he's the coolest doctor, and he's so chilled and laid back. But we get Timu Solani in here, and Ryan Getzlaff, and Stoner, and all these guys, and they get their teeth knocked out, and they're studs, man.
A lot of repeat customers, huh?
Oh yeah, totally, and they're all Canadian. Pretty much all these dudes are Canadian, and Timu's he's from Finland, so he's the Finnish Flash, they call him. But love the hockey guys, man. They're so humble and just the nicest guys, and just so laid back for sure. But we're pretty.
Yeah, I know the fans are great. They're very. We go to a lot of hockey games, but we were a little late going to this one game, and we're just kind of in the outer arena area getting some food and drinks. And a lot of people were there, and then they did the national anthem, and we really didn't think people would be, would maybe more likely ignore it because they're not in the arena. but you could have dropped a pin. Everybody stopped and pulled their hat off for the national anthem. So the hockey players are pretty patriotic, that's for sure.
That's awesome. I love hearing
Really
that.
awesome,
That is so neat. I love hearing that, and as they should be. But I see that quite a bit, even at some of the, football games and even baseball games. We'd be in the beer line and it's going. It's like, all right, put your hand over your heart, everyone, and even saying it out loud.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of neat.
That's nice. Well, your dad, apparently you're a Navy brat. I was an Army brat. So
there you go.
So we probably have a little bit more, respect for what it takes for the people that help protect our country, what they go through. So.
Oh, yeah, and all our freedoms, and just people can sometimes take it for granted. It's been fought for and for many, many years, and it's an honor for sure. And I just I see too that you did a residency at the VA there, and we work with several VAs, and we're very proud to be working for them and trying to give the best dentistry we can to our veterans. But no, that was great. That was a super experience. I was really happy I did that. And it was a residency in Portland, Oregon. I love that area. It's just beautiful, the northwestern area. Oh, it is. It's so nice. Shannon and my wife's grandparents lived in Bend, Oregon, and
that's beautiful.
Oh, it's so neat. And they were crabbers, man. They just they got me hooked on Dungeness crab way back in the day.
Oh yeah, that's easy to get hooked on that.
Oh, I love that stuff, man. I got this little place called the Crab Cook around the corner, and they get it shipped in from there, and they freeze it, but we get it, and it's just so good. But I remember Grandma used to make these. It was like a crab dish, and it would come in these boats, like these little lasagna like boats, and it would be full of Dungeness crab and different cheeses and stuff.
Oh,
and she'd
nice.
bake it, and it was just so good. And they'd catch all the crabs. I mean, they'd have hundreds of crabs they could catch, and pretty neat thing, man. But so now I get those things, and you go to lunch and get it as an appetizer, and we always eat them chilled here. And God, yeah, I get excited when I start talking about my Dungeness crabs. It's like, yeah. Well, heck, now let's go ahead and dental up, Dr. Ruff. So
there you go.
Tell me, why did you get into dentistry, and at what point did you think, I want to be a dentist?
It's kind of funny. My dad's a dentist, but I'm older, so I was raised back in the day, at least on the East Coast, and where I grew up in Fayetteville, where there were no female dentists. So I wasn't really, I knew I wanted to go in the healthcare field, but I never really considered dentistry as an option. And so actually what happened when I was in undergrad, I was a victim of a drunk driver accident, which resulted in a lot of head trauma and subsequent dental visits to a prosthodontist, Dr. Buzz King. And I was just so appreciative of the care that he provided and putting me back together. And every time I sat in his chair, he used that opportunity to encourage me to become a dentist. And so I switched my major from pharmacy to dental, and couldn't be happier.
Unbelievable. What a story that is. That's crazy. How did that happen?
Yeah, so
that was just
just a drunk driver just ran a red light, and it totaled my boyfriend's little sports car. But it just made me thankful for that, I didn't break my neck. It could always been worse. And I never had dental work done, truthfully, until then. So I didn't know, I couldn't appreciate what all a dentist could do for you.
Unbelievable. Wow, that's a first. I've heard a lot of stories on why they got into dentistry, but no, that's so neat. Hey, that's kind of divine intervention, man. It's kind of telling you.
It was, right?
You know, we got to get you into the field of dentistry, Dr. Ruff. No, that's so cool. Well, then tell me about your college life. Tell me a little bit about where you attended school. Tell me a little bit about that journey, if you could.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to go in the healthcare field. I wasn't for certain as to what area. So I studied biology and just the health field in general. Okay. But once that occurred, I really just was focused on becoming a dentist and just did everything I could to realize that dream. So, but undergrad was East Carolina, so I graduated from there with biology. it's funny. My nephew, he's going through the process of applying to different residencies to become a PA. And he is so thorough. My gosh, he must have interviewed at 12 different programs. And he's been accepted at several of them.
Okay.
But when I applied to dental school, I applied to one school. I never even thought that you need to apply more than one. So I just was lucky that they accepted me and let me go in. But I think how it's done now, it's more competitive, and so people apply to a lot of programs.
It's amazing the dental school and the different stories I've heard going through. Was it good for you? Did you get any bad feelings with certain instructors, or what kind of stories you had?
When I went, it's not like this now, but when I went to school, there 10% of the class was female, and there were a lot of old school type thoughts from the professors that probably wouldn't be too politically correct today. But my dad would always would just remind me that I'm there to become a dentist, not be a dental student. So just to suck it up and ignore whatever negative stuff that was said and just stay focused. But I think, from what I understand, dental school is a lot more fun now than it was when I went to school. So it's dental school light in comparison.
Yeah, I think so. I hear that too a little bit. But the other thing is that it costs about 10 times more. And it's like, right. I think they're up. We were talking about this anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 a year, depending if you get, lodging and all that.
It'd be worthwhile to do like either the GI Bill or do for the public health service, just to get them to pay for your education, save a lot of money so you don't graduate in great debt.
Yeah, my brother did that, and because we came from no money, and we had 6 of us with a single mom, and my brother Kevin, the oldest one, he went to the Navy, and like my dad, and the Navy gave him a full ride to USC Dental School. And
yeah, that's great. And then they just have to pay back every year for year that they spend in school. So, but then you get the experience and you get paid while you're in school. It's not a bad gig.
Yeah. I think he just had to put in like 8 years and they paid for everything, so he had no debt.
Right. Absolutely.
And then they even gave him, to keep him into the 10 years, he get a 2-year residency for endodontics, in Bethesda, Maryland.
Fantastic.
And so they paid for all that.
Right.
He said, no, I'm going to get out now. And, and so he got out and served, for 10 years, but he had no debt, and it's just amazing.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. And I tell you, he's smart. I can tell you, is your brother or brother-in-law?
He's my brother, and actually he teaches over at Chapel Hill, on the endo there. So Dr. Kevin Keating. Oh. So back then, and he's a lot earlier than you. He was like 81. You're in the 90s when you graduated, so you're not that old, okay? I got kids that were in high school. No.
There you go.
No.
Yeah, endo's the grateful to go into. I think their overhead's, about 30%? So
I think his overhead's like 10%. I mean, there's just no overhead.
I'm jealous is all I got to say.
Yeah, no overhead, and it's like, but like he says, Sean, he goes, all I get is the tough, nasty ones. The GPs are doing the ones that, they can do, and I see that. But he's in pretty heavy-duty surgery all day, every day, and it takes a certain kind of person to do surgery all day, every day, and, it's just, it's an art to it after you get it down. It probably is pretty easy for him, but there's still some tricky stuff. But
Sure.
I see these GPs busting their butt, and they have so much overhead. I mean, even the lab's like 5-6%, depending or whatever. And it's just, there's a lot to it, a lot of moving parts, and, that's why if I ever went into, dental, I'd probably specialize in something like I don't think I could ever do, endo, but who knows? I mean, it's just,
right.
It's just, but, GPs are great, very satisfying job too. That's what I've worked with for 34 years. I've worked with general practitioners, and I admire them.
Right. Well, I'm a general. I mean, I may have kind of focused my practice to do more cosmetics and implants, but I'm definitely a general practitioner, and I enjoy all aspects of it. So.
Oh, you do, and you rock and roll it, man. We're going to get into that for sure. So tell me, when you got out of college, Did you start out as an associate, or did you purchase a practice? Did you go and work at your dad's practice? Tell me how that started out.
After my residency, I really thought that I had no desire to own my own practice. Just the thought of that just terrified me. But I ended up working for a large group practice in town for a very short while. And I worked on commission, but I just found that tell you what did it was that the partners would do the crown and bridge, and then they would have me seat the crown and bridge and not get reimbursed for that. And it just really ticked me off. Yeah. So I decided that was enough motivating for me to open my own practice, because I'm like, man, I'm not going to get any better if I just am doing all the cleanup work and I'm not getting paid for this. I felt underappreciated.
Oh, I know. I can imagine.
But it was a good motivator to get over my fear of opening up my own practice. So that's why I did it. But
that's awesome.
and I'll tell you, it's kind of I mistakenly thought that the work was going to be getting ready to open the practice, and then you just coast after that. And that's definitely not true. That if you own a business, it's just like I'm sure you own your business. Yep. There's just a lot that goes into the day and day behind the scenes, absolutely, business wise, that you wouldn't have imagined you have to keep nurturing, after you get it going. So you definitely don't get to get back on your laurels, right?
No, that's so true. I mean, even too, like right out of school, when I went and worked for a lab, and I worked there for like 17 years and a few months. And, I knew how to make teeth. I worked the bench. I did ceramics. I did wax metal. Right. I did everything. And then about 4 years in, I went into management and I ran this lab, and I just learned so much on making teeth and working with dentists. And I just had it down. And then, I started that in 84, and then I left in 2002. And I said, I'm going to start my own thing, kind of like you guys getting out of college. So it's like me going to college for 17 years and getting my MBA and all this. Sure. So, and I got out and I thought, man, this is going to be so freaking easy, dude. This is nothing. It's like, man, it's never ending. And I just think the business part is just it's hard, but you just got to get people. I know too many dentists that do everything. They do their books, they do all this stuff, and they're kind of razzled and stressed. And you got to bring some people in now and then, even if it's once a week, to your books, or just so you can have your time to yourself. So you just can't, you gotta know how to, to manage your time. It's important. But I tell you, the whole thing with dentistry, and it's like in any business, sure, your field, but then the front desk, the back desk, the books, the taxes, the payroll, the marketing, the everything is just, there's a lot to it. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it never ends. When you're a business owner, it's 24/7.
No, it's never ending. That's for sure. You definitely need to be paying attention to things, and hiring the right people, not necessarily the person with the most experience, but the people with the right,
just the right attitude,
emotional IQ, right?
Exactly. Because you're going to be working with them. You're with them all day, every day. And
more than your family,
more than the family. And so the whole thing with hiring people, that's kind of an art to that. And I've done pretty good on my hires, and I've just been very blessed on everything that has worked out with us. But you just got to let your ego go when it comes to running the business, and just always, I still do it. I still bring in people to mentor me in certain areas. I bring in people to, kind of break down what I'm doing, to audit my processes. And I'm always doing that. And it's just like, you have to do that. And listening to your critics and your patients, and in my case, the doctors, like, when there's an issue, take it to heart. When you're the owner and your name's on the building, and you have to do that, because the guys that don't do that, or the girls that don't do that, you're not doing yourself any favors, and you just put in your dues. Like you said, your first 10 years probably was the toughest, and it's getting easier for sure, I'm sure, for you. But some of these newer dentists, man, they come in and they just expect the world. And no, man, you just got to get in those trenches, just work hard, do the right thing, and just try to practice great dentistry and doing the right thing and taking care of your people. And it comes to you. It will come to you. And I think it's just, it's so important.
And I think that's it, is that, don't just, I think it's important to take pride in all the things that you do, even the things that seem mundane, like a simple, amalgam filling. Just do the best one you can do if that's what you're doing that day or on that person. I think just overall taking pride in the finished product of what you're doing, then I think that helps you become better, in all aspects.
And your patients see it. They can see it with your staff and everything else, that these guys care. They really want to do good. And then there's certain people that don't really have that passion, and people pick that up. A lot of, it's like, I have so many doctors when I go and ask them, so what do you do to drive patients to your practice? And a lot of them, well, I really don't do social media. I really don't do a bunch of anything when it comes to that. I just do the best job I can on my patients, and we let them know that, hey, if you have friends that need some dentistry, let them know about us if you could, please. And they're like their biggest cheerleaders. And you got it's raving fans. I have a book I read, Raving Fans. And, if you concentrated more on your existing accounts that you have right now, you're going to get bigger by just taking care of those guys instead of trying to bring in so many new patients. You just let the people do it for you. Treat them good and have your staff treat them good, and you'll grow your practice. And it's just, especially in the field of dentistry.
That's definite. And I think anytime I've been in any business where I've gotten terrible customer service, I think it's not. I think that's more a reflection of the owner of that business, that that's just their attitude, that they're tolerating that very poor customer service, that's probably how they feel, about their customer. So, I think it's definitely best leading by example, and the staff will pick up on that. And then if you have somebody that doesn't share your vision, then it's okay to set them free.
Yeah, absolutely. This is an at-will state where we are in California. Hire at will, you can fire at will. And if you have like a bad apple or a person that's just not really...
No, because it can ruin the whole staff. Exactly. They can really taint it, so it's best not to keep them around,
You're only as strong as your weakest link. And if you have some weak links, and I remember my old boss used to tell me at the end of the year, he used to drop, I don't do it, but he used to drop 3%. It was a number, 3% of the employees, the least, or, the ones that weren't rated the highest, the bottom 3% of the employees and the bottom 3% of the accounts. And just that ones that were having, he always did it. And I don't know, he kind of keep growing, but I don't know. It's just, I don't really let people go here because everyone that I've hired are pretty good and they want to work here. And it's like, I don't have any turnover, and it's just kind of a neat thing. And, but pretty neat. But okay, so hey, tell me a little bit about the layout of your practice. How's it grown over the years? Tell me a little bit about that if you could.
Yeah, sure. When I first was kind of a funny story because I was working as an associate for this large practice, and I really didn't want to tell them I was going to start my own practice, even though I followed the covenant 7 miles as the crow flies away from there. Okay. So I had a realtor and had arranged to meet with the dental rep person and the guy that sold the equipment and their architect. From out of town, we all arranged to meet this realtor to look at this space. And who was renting this space at the time was a telemarketing company, and she was refusing to let us in there. Even the owner was trying to sell the location. So I ended up using a credit card to break into the place.
Yeah.
And the police were called. I mean, it's like the whole 9 yards. Officer Cruz, I'll never forget his name. But we all end up down in night court. The duty guy from the Thompson rep, and all of us are down there, and the chick that was trying to prevent us from seeing this place. And so the judge's like, well, why are y'all? And we were all crowded into this little room. I mean, it was just, if only it could have been videotaped. And so the judge finally, finds out, what happened. He says, well, I want to see who was this person that wouldn't let this little lady in this building. And he just kind of read her the riot act. But, it could have gone either way, right? I could have started off my career in jail, right?
That's
so
great.
it's like, well, technically she wasn't breaking in because she had permission from the owner,
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy had to draw up the plans real quick on the space. So that's why he had to get in. And but so we started off with the location that had 4 operatories, and I had the person I bought. I took 2 condos and combined them for that. And the person I bought those condos with also sold me a rental property adjoined to it that was housing a tobacco distribution company. So I was promoting health and cancer at the same time. And so finally, when when their lease ran out, like in 5 years, I just consolidated that property into my existing practice. And now I have 7 operatories. But it started out in night court.
That's so cool. I bet the lady the realtor had another listing, or she could double up and get the 6%, like 3 and 3 on both sides. That's why she probably didn't want you, because she's only going to get 3% probably or something.
I guess, right? It was the renter from that property that was not letting us in to see it. That was the problem, the telemarketer.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when she left the court, she pointed her finger at me in my chest, and she says, I am never going to come see you as a patient. I'm like, do you promise?
Exactly.
I don't think this is going to be a good fit here.
Oh, that's a good story, man. So you got that, and then the tobacco company went out of business, and you expanded over there, huh?
Yeah, so I just didn't renew their lease, and but it worked out great. So I had it worked good with cash flow, having that property available for when I did expand.
Oh, absolutely.
And but they had floor to ceiling tobacco boxes, cartons all through it would not have passed fire code, that's for sure.
No kidding.
So.
That's over by my brother always goes. It's Tobacco Road out there. I mean, there's so many tobacco farms and everything else.
Tobacco people, but now you guys are the big marijuana sellers now, right?
Yeah, California. It's
recreational.
I got with that stock TLRY, man. It was like $20. It went up to like $300, and then
no way.
Yeah, and then for tobacco, I got this stock way back. It's called XXII, and it's 22nd Century is the name of this company. It's a small little tobacco pharmaceutical type. They got a hybrid nicotine that is 3% nicotine only, and it's like drop the nicotine by 97%.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just so it's been a while. I've got that a couple years ago, but I got a lot of share. I got it like under $1.
You don't have to work with getting stock like that.
Yeah, well, you never know, because the FDA came up and said all these tobacco companies have to get least amount of nicotine in their cigarettes, and this is the only company that's got it. But it's been floundering up and down, and it's up 10% today. I'm looking, I mean, like $8,000 just sitting here at the office now. But yeah,
that's great.
I got my pot stock, TLRY, I think that is, and then XXII and my tobacco. So got it covered.
There you go. You're set.
Yeah,
You're set.
I'm set. Those are my play ones. I always kind of bust my guy's balls that does my financial advising. I was like, dude, what's going on, man? This stuff ain't going up, because you look at things and just kind of get on them a little bit, but it's harder than you think. And so I played around a little TD Ameritrade stuff, and that stuff's impossible, man. It's like watching, grass grow. It's like, no, it's not bad. But you get in these volatile like pot stocks or, this tobacco thing.
Right.
Oh, up 9% today, up, down 15, up 10. It's like, what the heck? Some big waves of, it's kind of crazy. But,
right.
But, yeah, so, okay, enough of that. Let's get back to, tell me, what technology are you currently using in your practice?
Yeah, so that actually is kind of exciting. I don't know if you have heard of the XNav technology, but it was originally utilized by neurosurgeons for brain surgery, so they could see inside the brain while they're doing the surgery. So they use that same technology and now have created this so we can use this in your dental office. And it meshes with your CT scan data. And so when you're actually doing the procedure, you can see real time as you are drilling, you can see inside the jaw. And it's just crazy accurate and precise. And I think this is one of those technologies that, say, 10 years from now will probably be standard of care, just as now is standard of care before you do implants to have a CT scan.
Absolutely.
When I started doing them, that wasn't standard of care. We would use an X-ray, and but my goodness gracious, now I can't think of anybody who would do an implant without having a CT scan. But now this is just a whole nother ball game where it meshes the information. It has two cameras, and you have a handpiece that has an attachment to it that allows the camera to see the handpiece. And there is a bite block that you take your CT scan with, so that the camera picks that up. So in real time, within micromillimeters, the accuracy is just unbelievable. Because you're actually seeing in the side of the jaw as you're working. It's crazy.
So this is called X-Guide, right?
Yeah, X-Guide. XNav is the company. The first guy that tried to get this going in the dental field was a few years ago, was an Israeli doctor. And it was just so expensive, it was cost prohibitive for dentists to be able to have this in their office. But this guy that developed this company, that bought the rights for this, is the same person that developed the iCat. And so, anyways, I was really blown out of the water when I went to the osteogenics meeting this spring. And so that's such a cool meeting because they do it every other year, and they have researchers from all over the country come and they present their data. And so talk about an accelerated pace of advancing what can be gained in technology is just phenomenal, because there are just outstanding clinicians and researchers from all over the world. They're pooling their data. And I think they're just changing the face of dentistry, at least implant dentistry, of how we know it.
That's amazing.
The other thing that was just developed and the patent just came out on it maybe just a year ago are the VersaBurs. And these things are unbelievable. This was developed by a Middle Eastern dentist. And this is just phenomenal. So all other drills that we've used before when placing implants, they would actually be used in a fashion that you would need to remove some bone to be able to place the implant in a sequential manner to fit whichever size implant that you're placing. This totally spins it on its head, where the drills are designed that you use it in reverse order. And so what it does is autogenous grafting. So it captures their bone and it autografts it into their jawbone, widens the jawbone so that you end up with a thicker layer of bone around the implant. It can also be utilized to raise the sinus membrane, so you can also do a sinus graft the same time you're placing the implant. Is that not crazy?
Oh, man, it's just crazy to do a sinus lift at all. But now that's
blows my mind. And so if you marry that technology with the live guided computer surgery technology is just phenomenal. The results you're going to get, you can't help but the patient get a better, more accurate result because you're increasing the bone around the patient. They're going to end up with less post-op sensitivity because you don't have to necessarily reflect a flap. And because you can see, you have basically x-ray vision, you can see inside as you're working. And anyways, it's pretty exciting, the technology that they're coming up with, just to be able to be so precise and so accurate. You can just definitely have a better prediction of the outcome patients will have.
Is it real expensive? I mean, is it?
Well, I went from 2 years ago, I was paper and I did process x-rays the old fashioned way.
Okay.
So I went from being paper to now we have, computers in every room and digital everything. And now we have a CT scan and that. So going from 0 to 1,000, that's expensive doing it in that way. So it'd probably be better to gradually do it. But if I wanted to have the CT scan, I had to have all these other things, and so I had to catch up.
Okay. What's the name of this company again? We'll let's put it on our podcast so
It's not a publicly traded company yet.
Oh, so where do you
so
purchase?
We can't gain money yet, right?
No, I'm just saying for our dentist to get the system to look at.
Two major things. So, and then three things, actually. The third technology that I think is just really helping patients heal faster is using their growth factors or stem cells by using the platelet-rich fibrin technique, where you can, just get some blood from your patient at the beginning of the procedure, centrifuge it, then you can actually get the membranes created by their white cells, mix that with a bone graft. You're just going to get a more predictable healing rate.
Okay.
And but that's PRF technique. The other technique is the Versa, the VERSAH, the Versa drill. And I think that they may be based out of California, so you could probably get them on your show. But that's just unbelievable phenomena. All the big speakers, once they've tried this, they're like, well, now I can get rid of half of the instruments I have, these tools I've spent my money on, because now I can use this drill technique and just save the patient so much as far as being able to, instead of doing a lateral window sinus lift, now we can use this drill system and get 5 more millimeters of height without having to reflect a flap. I mean, it's just phenomenal.
That's amazing.
And then the other is the XNAV, which actually I believe they are based out of, they're on the East Coast, but I'm sure they fly out there or you could talk to them on audio. But Dr. Emerson is the founder of that company. Okay. And I believe he practices in Washington, D.C., I believe.
No kidding. That's a trip when he starts talking about stem cells and taking out your blood and then put it in that centrifuge thing. They gotta, I hate to say it, I don't want to, it's just, there's a big thing here. They call it the vampire facelift. And it's like,
oh, no kidding, right?
Yeah, and they're doing these stem cells and they put it in that centrifuge thing and then they inject it back into you. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But all the ladies, the Kardashians, they all do it, man, and it's a trip. But it's like, not that I would ever do it, but it sounds, not that, it's just, they're doing a lot of different things with stem cells,
Yeah, well, and, it's a safer way because you're using their own biomaterials. So you're not going to have trouble with, I don't know, it's probably something that's been around for a while, but underutilized.
So do you sink a lot of implants yourself? What implant system do you like more than others?
I've used different types. There's a lot of different type of systems out there. I think a lot of the systems will work well. So I think the biggie is just learning. When I completed that implant, the Maxi course, really, I just, after I finished that, I'm like, well, gosh, now I need to really focus on learning the sinus lift techniques. Now I need to learn bone augmentation. So there was a lot of other skill sets that were necessary to help have greater amount of success. So I think there's a lot of great implant systems out there. Personally, I use a lot of Implant Direct.
Okay.
And they offer a variety of different types of systems. I like the Legacy, so that's just personally what I am using. But I think that there are many different. I've used AstroTech in the past; they're a really good system. So there are a lot of great systems out there. I think it's just learning all the other techniques you need to be able to deal with the situations when you don't have enough bone. What do you do in that situation to be able to make this site possible to have implants?
Absolutely. No, and it takes big cojones, man. I got some guys that are trying to do sinus lifts. So you can do sinus lifts. I talked about this on my podcast just recently. I was watching some video animation on how it's done, and it's just amazing, the technology. And I'm just a lowly dental tech. We just restore. We get it and it's here. So it's just kind of amazing how you see really what goes in for all the steps and what you need to do. And, just the whole osseo integration for it to grow and just to take and not, have to put it to sleep because it failed and this and that. But for us to restore it, it seems easy for us because that's all we do. But to hear what a dentist has to go through, and, a lot of my dentists will just, they'll send it out to an oral surgeon that really does this in and out. So, you're really pushing it. You're doing like prosthodontics and everything else, it seems like, because we do a lot of big stuff with you. And how are we doing on your implants restoring them? We doing an okay job? We're blowing it now and then?
Yeah, no, you guys do a great job. For me, I like having a seating jig when placing the abutment, just to make sure it's lined up correctly. I find that makes it easier, okay, and more predictable. I don't know if all dentists like using that, but I know for me that makes it an easier process of seating the implants. You guys do an amazing job with your porcelain department. I just seated. It's easy, right? When you do a whole mouth or you do an entry section, that's great, right? Because then you don't worry so much. But I just seated this beautiful porcelain crown on just tooth number 7. That's the hard part. And you can make
single
that
central, man. It's the
oh my goodness, nightmare. Right? It looks so beautiful. It really looked great.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
That's the hard thing. We try to send photographs, but one thing when I'm doing like a single crown like that, I try to prepare my patients. We're gonna do our best to get this shade matched perfectly the first go around, but we want it right. Sometimes it's necessary to take a photograph with it in the mouth and have them do a little adjusting. So I always try to prepare them mentally that we may need more than one appointment to have this the way we want it. And so I think if you do that, it's nobody's fault. This is just a really challenging thing to try to accomplish. We can make it easy on the lab guy and just prep all your front teeth, then I can tell you for sure we'll get it right the first time. But, if you don't want to do that, then let's have a little patience when we're trying to get this right.
Absolutely. So, that's such a good attitude you have, because I've had it sometimes. They might have some fluorescence and just some hypocalcification on a single.
Absolutely.
Centrals are always the toughest. Like, do 2 centrals at least, with single central. Laterals are a lot easier than centrals, but sometimes, man, 2-3 times, and it's rare, but when it does happen, it's like I could almost just tell the doctor, let me just give you free lab work on the other 4 teeth or whatever it is, and it'll save me a bunch of headaches. And it's just, but we get it more so than not when we get a good photo and stuff like that. But it's just
right. No. Yeah. This looked really great. So I think having a good camera is important for dentists to utilize that digital camera. I think I use a Canon. I can't even remember which
D10,
number
D10 or something, or I think I got
like
it.
But it's great. I mean, it's so good at communicating. I have tried to email the photographs before, but I find the color is not quite as true. So I'll print the photographs out and send it that way. Beautiful. I think that is a better communicator for the.
I think so too. It does, because you have different resolutions and different computer screens, and it's just a picture.
That way you're in control of that, and of course, whole shade guy. But I think also the camera is really important. I mean, speaking of technology, I think that's a very important tool to invest in, and the time to invest in that, because that's a way for you to showcase what work you can do. Absolutely. You know, show your before and after photographs, because just like when I'm trying to find a good restaurant or a place to stay, I want to look at their photographs and I want to look at their reviews from people that have experienced that establishment. And so I find that we certainly love getting patient referrals, but I find that a lot of new patients who come to see us also find us just through the website, looking at our photographs or the reviews. So I think that's super important in promoting your work rather than, talking bad about maybe one of your peers in town. Just promote what you can do, and I think as long as you stay positive, that's just the best way to be. It's just be positive about what you can do. Don't trash talk your other doctors in town.
Hold your tongue. I hear that a lot lately as I get older, and just Sean, and I have, and you can't just always say what you feel, and you hold your tongue.
No, you can't.
Yeah, it's just, especially this day and age.
People are sensitive, man, and they have guns these days, right?
Exactly. Not out here in California.
Especially in the South.
Oh man, I had a lot of Texas doctors on my podcast lately, and they all got guns in their cars and shotguns in the back window, and we got a lot of guns here, but they're all just the criminals that hide them from you. But just regular people day to day, they're not carrying a concealed weapon. It's just crazy. But so what about going forward with CE for some of the newer doctors out? Any recommendations on some CE that you like?
Man, there's so many options out there. This course I went to, I just gained so much knowledge from it. It was put on by Osteogenics. I like that company. I think that they offer fair research. They make it easy for other. They make it such a really easy learning environment. They offer hands-on training from these other practitioners, and I think it's inexpensive. A lot of these guys, these big name guys, will have a way of learning online. So you have all these different lessons and videos of procedures that you can have access to for pretty minimal money, very minimal amount of money. So I think that's a great way to learn now. You can learn online. You don't have to pay a ton of money to go to meetings. Maybe go to some just to kind of talk to other peers of yours, and you can learn a lot from them of how they're doing things.
Absolutely. You do the Chicago Midwinter ever?
Not to the Chicago Midwinter. I usually try to find like specific meetings for probably more like for implants or surgery, things like that. So.
Okay. That's so cool. Okay. What about with like practice management at all, and like work in your office? Have you done anything there?
Yeah. Early on in my career, I ended up taking a course, and it was such a fun course. Are you familiar with Kit Weathers? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Kit Weathers. Okay. So he's from Mebane, Georgia, and his partner is a journalist, Dr. Goldstein, I think is his name. Anyways, he had a course down there to really hone your endo. I think now he's working with the LVI group, I believe, in Vegas. But at this time, he was doing the course through his office down in Mebane, Georgia.
Okay.
And those guys were awesome. They were filled with so much great practical knowledge of practice management advice. So I don't know if they are still offering that.
Yeah, I've seen them on Dental Town. They were pretty big there for a while. But it's good to get into some of those just because a lot of these dentists, they got the great skills, a lot of theory, but man, to get the management of how to run that ship a little bit, it helps,
It's such a ballgame, and they didn't spend much time in school school on that, at least when I went to school. So I think you have to be your own best advocate and just go out there. Now it's so easy online to try to get this different information from different sources.
Yeah, it was.
You can have periodicals come in to give you some advice, but
and it's actually you can get your CE for the year too through online.
Yeah,
and it's like, gosh. That's what I got to do on mine. I got to do it online, and then I go to Chicago and get a bunch there. But it's nonstop. You got to keep doing that because you got to get your credits. Well, that's cool, right, man. I mean, awesome talking to you, and I can't thank you enough for all the work. And it's just you're a sharp cookie, and especially you do some of the best model work out of. I have another doctor that does it out of Georgia too, and man, he just but only 2 people. You and another person is the only one doing it, but that's fine. Hey, it works. We have no remakes, and if we do have one, we probably mess something up, but it's just.
No, you guys do some really, really good work. So it's been a pleasure working with y'all, and it's been great. You know, I can count on the work being right. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, that's so cool, Dr. Ruff. Well, thank you so much. I know you taking the time out today for this, and I just thank you for your time. And if there's anything, man, please just ask for Sean and I'll hook you up. And again, anything at all you need, just let us know. We love to have you out here too. We have some different seminars we're doing. We'll have to get you some info when something's coming up in the near future.
Yeah, definitely.
We'd love to have you out here and you can come see your techs and just see the facility. And we'd love to, and you bring that husband along. Bring your doctor husband. Now he's a medical doctor, right?
He is. He's a medical doctor. So, so he,
that's so cool.
Right. So he's not, it's probably good we're not in the exact same field. So he does a great job with his practice but he teases me that he's going to retire and come manage my practice. I'm like, oh, no.
No, stay where you're at, honey, because I like what I got going here, man. No, that's so neat. Well, hey, Dr. Ruff, thanks again so much. And I really appreciate coming on the Dental Up podcast. And we look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Dental Up podcast show this week. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or search the Dental Up podcast on iTunes for our weekly feed. Don't forget to visit KeatingDentalArts.com/promo for exclusive offers. Keating Dental Arts is a full-service dental laboratory, and we're nationwide. We'd love for you to send us a case so we can show you the Keating difference. If you dig what you heard, please leave a review on iTunes, and we'll be back next week.